Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Dina Calmette here. And for today's news, I want to first talk about what's happening with Israel. And then we're going to talk about Russia, the United States, as well as China, the Philippines, and some biblical level disasters that are occurring all over the world. And I want to first take you to this report by the Times of Israel. The Times of Israel is reporting that Australia will recognize a Palestinian state in September at the United Nations, according to the Prime Minister. It's a quick about face after saying for 2 weeks that he didn't plan to imminently make such a move. And shortly after his announcement, New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters said his country would carefully consider whether to do the same thing over the next month, adding that New Zealand's recognition of a Palestinian state was a matter of when and not if. The two oceanic countries look to join the UK, Canada, France, and other Western nations that have recently pledged to do the same. Now, with that said, All Israel News is reporting that although the majority of Finland's lawmakers support the establishment of a Palestinian state, the government has announced that it will not be recognizing a state of Palestine at this time. The Prime Minister stated that his party is committed to a two-state solution and that when the logical time will come, then Finland's support will include recognition of a Palestinian state. He said that recognition can only be made once, so it must be considered carefully. So eventually, they're going to join the ranks with everybody else when a two-state solution comes around. And I believe we're going to see even more countries agree with a two-state solution. Now, in the meantime, I'm sure you guys are already aware, but President Trump and the Russian President Putin will meet this Friday on August 15th, and they are expected to meet in Alaska. The president wrote on Truth Social that the highly anticipated meeting between myself as President of the United States and America and President Putin of Russia will take place next Friday, August 15th, 2025, in the great state of Alaska. He says, further details to follow. Thank you for attention to this matter. So, very interesting news. As of right now, Zelensky will not be at that meeting, but Politico is reporting that President Trump will join European leaders, including the Ukrainian President Zelensky, for an emergency virtual summit on Wednesday, so this Wednesday. The virtual summit will focus on pressure options against Russia, questions about Ukrainian territories seized by Russia, security guarantees for Kyiv, and the sequencing of potential peace talks. Merz and other European leaders demand that Putin first agrees to a ceasefire before any peace talks or land swaps between Moscow and Ukraine can take place. They have also made clear that any potential territorial exchanges must be balanced and agreed with Ukraine, and that Ukraine should receive firm security guarantees to protect it against further aggression. Now, in addition to that, as far as Trump news goes, the Trump administration is now offering a $50 million reward to anyone who can provide information leading to the arrest of the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. The announcement came directly from Attorney General Pam Bondi, who accused Maduro of conspiring with multiple gangs and bringing dangerous weapons into the United States. Now, what's happening in Washington, D.C.? Well, it's being reported that the president made a major declaration during a highly anticipated press conference on D.C. crime Monday morning, declaring it Liberation Day in the nation's capital. He said, "This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is, and placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that." So here's some very interesting news. Now, of course, there's a lot of controversy around this, but if he's looking to make the cities safe, I personally don't see anything wrong with it. If it gets authoritarian, that's another story. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, you guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. And will this expand into other major cities here across the nation? But let's move along and talk about what's happening with the Philippines. ABC News is reporting that the Philippine president said on Monday that his country would inevitably be drawn kicking and screaming into any war over Taiwan due to its proximity to the island. He also told a news conference that the Philippines Coast Guard, Navy, and other vessels defending its territorial interests in the South China Sea would never back down and would stand their ground in the contested waters after the Chinese Coast Guard on Monday staged dangerous blocking maneuvers and used a powerful water canyon to try to drive away Philippine vessels from the hotly disputed Scarborough Shoal. Now, it's the latest flare-up of long-simmering territorial disputes in the busy waterway, a key global trade route where overlapping claims between China and the Philippines have escalated in recent years. Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan also lay claims to parts of the contested waters. So here we have the Philippines now, Australia, Japan, possibly South Korea, and of course the United States involved in this future conflict if China does indeed follow through on their threats and invades Taiwan. So this could definitely get bigger because we've got a lot of people trying to defend Taiwan, but who also is behind China? Would it be Iran? Would it be Russia? Would it be North Korea? And speaking of North Korea, Newsmax is reporting that North Korea denounced on Monday a major joint exercise planned by South Korea and U.S. militaries on direct military provocation and warned of counteraction. Now, of course, we see this every year or every time the United States and South Korea get together and do these annual drills. North Korea is always threatened. Apparently, they stated that the armed forces of the DPRK will cope with the war drills of the U.S. and the South with thoroughgoing and resolute counteraction posture and strictly exercise the sovereign right. It goes on to say that South Korea and the United States said last week that the annual exercise would begin on August 18th to test command control and troop mobilization under an upgraded security strategy against heightened threat of nuclear warfare by North Korea. So he's still out there complaining, but what has China been up to? A very interesting report from TWZ is stating that the U.S. military and Coast Guard are monitoring the simultaneous appearance of 5 Chinese ice-breaking vessels in the Arctic region near Alaska. The unprecedented presence represents 2.5 times the number of icebreakers currently capable of being operated in the entire Arctic region. Another is scheduled to be commissioned on Sunday, which was yesterday, and plans underway to build dozens more. The Chinese icebreakers, which include a number of research-focused types, are being monitored by NORAD and NORTHCOM. Although the vessels are operating in international waters and are not considered a homeland defense threat, their numbers represent an increase from years past. They are definitely collecting intel from the United States, the Chinese, and something else to note is that this is just a few days from the Russian president and the U.S. president meeting in Alaska. So I guess we're going to have to wait to see what happens. Not a threat, but at the same time, just something to be aware of. Now let's move along and talk about some other headlines that have occurred in the last few days. Not sure if you guys have seen this, but the Daily Mail is reporting that the biblical Sea of Galilee has mysteriously turned a vivid blood red, leaving locals rattled and warning of a bad omen. Stunned visitors watched crimson waves roll into the shore, with some comparing the eerie transformation to the 10 plagues that God inflicted on the Egyptians in the biblical narrative of Exodus. According to scripture, the curse saw the Nile's water struck by Moses' staff on God's command, turning them to blood in a divine act of judgment. The apocalyptic spectacle set social media ablaze, with many calling it a sign of the end times. But scientists are saying that there is a far less supernatural explanation. Israel's environmental ministry confirmed that the transformation this month was caused by a bloom of green algae in the freshwater lake, which turns red when a natural pigment builds up under intense sunlight. The pigment is harmless, officials stressed, and tests show that the water is safe for swimming despite its unsettling hue. So this is definitely a precursor of things to come. But we know from scripture that the waters won't just look blood red, they will actually turn to blood. Revelation chapter 16 verse 4 says, "And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood." So right now, no, this is a form of algae, and it's actually safer here in Israel than the ones here in the United States, but it's certainly a sign of things to come. Now let's talk about what else the earth is doing. Well, this year has been called the year of the fire and the year of the floods, and we're talking biblical type floods, you guys. But in California, in the Los Angeles area, a fierce wildfire northwest of Los Angeles prompted evacuation orders for thousands of residents on Friday as extreme heat and dry conditions fueled its rapid spread. Authorities believe that they are getting the Canyon fire under control, but the Gifford fire has now grown to 114,000 acres. It is now considered a megafire. The massive wildfire near the Grand Canyon has been so intense at times that it has created its own weather. The Dragon Bravo fire, which has scorched more than 130,000 acres in Arizona, north of Grand Canyon, has become so hot that it spurred these fire clouds at points. The fire-driven clouds can form when the heat and the smoke from a very large wildfire is released into the atmosphere. And I'm getting this from the Most Important News with Michael Schneider. He goes on to say that, needless to say, the extremely hot and dry conditions in Arizona right now are perfect for this fire. If you can believe it, the high temperature in Phoenix reached 118 degrees on August 7th. That was the hottest August day in over 120 years of record keeping. Let's talk about the biblical floods that are occurring in the Midwest. More than 900 flights were delayed and nearly 14 million Americans remained under flood alerts Sunday night as damaging storms continued to batter the Midwest. A total of 21 flights were canceled, in addition to more than 900 flights delayed at the Denver International Airport on Sunday. Forecasters were warning residents from Kansas through Wisconsin that they may see repeated rounds of heavy rain along with hail, damaging winds, and even isolated tornadoes overnight. But that warning comes after at least 24 storms pounded the upper Midwest on Saturday, with wind gusts of 80 to 90 miles per hour reported in Nebraska and up to a foot of rain reported in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Distressing videos shared online showed high water levels in Wisconsin overtaking a bridge. Water was also seen rushing past houses as fast-moving streams raced down residential streets, leaving at least one man stranded sitting on the hood of his car as the water passed him by. Milwaukee was hit with 5.74 inches of rain on Saturday, setting a new daily record for the area. The rain has only continued since, with areas of Milwaukee seeing more than 14 inches of total rainfall as of Sunday morning. And then, of course, we have what happened in Chicago in late July. More than 5 inches of rain fell in just 2 hours. And then, if we can go back to Texas and what happened over there. And then over in New Mexico, Mexico City's Benito International Airport suspended operations for several hours after heavy rains flooded the capital and caused poor visibility. Over in China, the amount of rainfall in the Yuzhong County has been absolutely insane. At least 10 people have perished after the county received up to a half of the county's average annual rainfall on August 7th and 8th. And let's go back to the fires. Euronews is reporting that France, Spain, Greece, and Turkey are battling wildfires as a new heat wave brings record temperatures surpassing 40 degrees Celsius. In France, about 14 firefighters were deployed on Saturday in France's southern Aude region to prevent the country's largest wildfire in decades from reigniting. Firefighters also continued to battle an active wildfire in the Avila province, central western in Spain on Saturday. In Greece, a large wildfire that erupted on Friday, some 40 kilometers southeast of Athens, continued to rage across eastern and southern Attica throughout the night, causing significant damage to homes and claiming one life. Wildfires in Turkey have been largely brought under control, but a fire which broke out on Friday near the Yigitor village had spread to a forested area under strong winds and had prompted precautionary evacuations. And what about the earthquakes? On Sunday, a 6.1 caused buildings to collapse in a heavily populated area of Turkey. The day before, a 6.0 shook the Kuril Islands. And let us not forget the 5.9 earthquake that just rattled the coastline of Guatemala. And what is this business about a giant fireball that lit up the skies over Australia on Sunday? A blazing fireball lit up the skies over Australia before a deafening bang rattled homes and sent social media into a meltdown. The suspected meteor was spotted just before 8 p.m. on Sunday by Victoria residents who thought they saw a blinding flash followed by a ground-shaking boom. At the end of June, a meteorite actually slammed into a home in Georgia. You guys, none of this is normal. But we do know it's normal for Bible prophecy. As I've stated in prior broadcasts, we know that in the books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that there will be earthquakes in diverse places, wars and rumors of wars. We also know that Jesus said in Luke 21 that there would be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. Acts in Joel warns us of wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows or pillars of smoke. And then, of course, Jesus said that as it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. So we are seeing biblical floods, mega fires, monster earthquakes, and a lot of talk about conflicts with nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. I would definitely say Bible prophecy is coming alive right before our very eyes. But I just wanted to bring you guys the latest today. I would love to hear from all of you, so please do leave your comments below this video. Also, when you have some time, come and visit me on my social media pages, as well as my website at www.cww7news.com. Thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, God bless and stay safe.